When someone tells me that they voted for Trump, but now they're being affected by things that he said he was going to do, I don't feel bad. Hot take for some, not for a lot. Because, bro, you voted for that. Were you not listening to his campaign trail at all? Like, do we not remember the last time he was in office? I'm glad you're suffering because that's what you voted for. What? What? Oh, he said he was going to do this, and now he's doing it, and it's fucking me over. Yeah, what did you think was going to happen? Like, genuinely.
I know I'm asking for it, but even posting something like this, but is there anyone else that voted for Trump that is, like, feeling really underwhelmed with how things are going and, like, low-key regretting it? Because that's me now.
Lloyd, what's the message?
Jesus died on that cross so we could live, and this is not living.
Amen. I respect that.
I voted for Trump to protect women's rights. I voted for Trump so that way my niece could use a women's restroom without having to worry about if a biological man is following in behind her. I voted for Trump because in a few years I want to be able to call myself a homeowner. I voted for Trump because I want to be able to afford goods again, like gas and groceries. I voted for Trump because I didn't want to see a biological male compete against biological females in women's sports. I voted for Trump because I want to keep God in schools. I voted for Trump so the women of America are able to walk around freely without having to worry about getting assaulted. I voted for Trump because I don't want a war and I don't want a draft. I voted for Trump to protect women's rights and make America great again, and that's what he's gonna do.
The only reason poor MAGAs are okay with the big beautiful bill passing is because they think other people will suffer more. They know they're going to have to take a hit and endure some pain. But as long as the people they hate are suffering just a little bit more, they're willing to do it. Keep this in mind as you continue to talk with them after this bill passes. They've never had a policy of helping anyone. It's always been about hurting others.
Alright folks, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Thank you so much for always come back to watch our video. Now, in today's video, we're gonna look together why poor MAGA people always vote against their own interests, because on paper it doesn't make sense. They voted for tax cuts that benefits billionaires, healthcare rollbacks that hurt rural hospitals, and many things that really hurt them. But people always ask the question why these MAGA people always vote against their own interest. That's also a question you are asking, or you have asked yourself, why these people always vote against their own interests. Today we're gonna find out the reason why. We have some few clips we're gonna watch together. Please watch till the end. I'll come back with my commentary.
Why, oh why do poor white people vote against themselves time and time again? They vote for Trump and the other MAGA politicians only to have every promise broken, prices go up, social supports evaporate. Here's why. First, remember what I talked about recently, the psychological wage of whiteness. That term was coined by W.E. Du Bois to describe poor white folks being paid with social status rather than decent living conditions. They're convinced by the elites that they're better than black folks, better than immigrants, Latinos, LGBTQ folks. They're convinced that being white puts them in the same league as the elites. Of course, the elites know otherwise, but the poor whites buy it because they're grasping at straws. Second, they are convinced that the people they're supposedly better than are the big threat in their lives. Not the rich, not the corporations or the politicians, but immigrants, black folks, welfare queens, LGBTQ, criminals, the usual scapegoats. Third, the elites promise protection to poor white folks. A politician comes along and says, I'll keep those people in their place, or I'll kick them out, or I'll lock them up. Or, more politely, I'll defend your values. They don't say, I'll make your life better. Well, they say it, they just don't mean it. They'll say, I'll make sure they don't get ahead of you. Fourth, they vote for the punishment, not the policy. when a law gets passed that slashes public housing or school funding or food aid, they think, good, that'll stop those lazy freeloaders. And they do some mental gymnastics that make them believe it's worth losing those things for their own families in order to see those problematic black people and immigrants and so forth being punished. It gets to a point where just seeing those guys being punished is reward enough, which is pretty sick, but that's how behavior works. Their housing, schools, and groceries are on the chopping block too, but they blame that on Biden. Always a scapegoat. They get hit by the same policies they were told would punish the others, and they blame the wrong people. The system fails them, but they've been trained to blame the scapegoats, not the cause, which is the rich people, the people they voted for. So they think the problem is still those people, not the fact that they were personally manipulated by the people they voted for. They're basically saying, I'll take the hit as long as you don't help them, or worse, as long as you hurt them. That is the psychological wage Du Bois was talking about, the trade-off between material security for racial status. And that's a crying shame, folks. One share, like, save, and comment shows that you care about white people taking responsibility for racism in America. This work is important to me, and I want to keep doing it. If you want to support me, consider a donation of any size to coffee.com/Kelly Snyder. And yeah, spelling is important. Get curious.
All right, Trumpers, come and get me. Hey, listen, it's a sad day to be an American, and I'll tell you why. Is because it's not about the red, white, and blue. It's not about being an actual American. It's not about our military. It's about that Americans are plumb incompetent to put that orange man in the White House again for the second time. He makes us look weak. He makes us look like we're fools. He makes us look incompetent and weak. He's declining at a rapid rate. It's okay for him to get up there and scream profanity words, crazy, stupid, all these words that he says is terrible, but he claims to be this Christian, has this big Christian following. That doesn't sound real Christian-like to me, okay? That sounds like you bought into a cult. And it's just sad to think that all you Americans put us in this position that voted for him. It just makes me not even want to be an American. And a lot of people's going to read this about, well, then move. Well, now, bitch, be smart about what you're saying. It's an analogy of just saying that it's your fault for voting for him. It's your fault for putting him in the White House, and it's your fault for making this country the way it is because you were too daft and too incompetent and too uneducated to see what this man was doing to us. So, MAGAs, you did fuck us, and thank you for fucking us.
When white women who voted for Trump hear that we hope that they get what they voted for, here's what I think they're missing. Because a lot of those Republican white women are friends with liberal white women. Anytime they have a problem that they can't go to their Republican friends with, they call us. When they have a baby and their husband is busy because there's a game on or whatever, they call us. And when they find themselves in a pickle that they can't tell their husbands about because their husband's been red pill and he's increasingly filled with rage, they call us. You know, they can't call their Republican women friends because they know what the party line is. They're just going to tell them they're wrong, that they deserve what they get. So they call a bleeding heart liberal to help. But now you've voted the country up a creek. And good people are rightfully afraid of us bleeding heart liberal white women because of the way that we enabled you. So now, call your husband. Because gone are the days that you could find community in me, but I can't find community in you.
There's a whole lot of white people who are now upset that they voted for Trump. So I just want to point out this lesson and thing we do in the black community where we say, oh, skin folk and kin folk, y'all voted for that man because he's white and you didn't want to see a black woman become the president. And now you see all skin folk ain't kin folk. I don't feel sorry for y'all at all.
You've been had this question like me, asking yourself, why do MAGA voters always vote against their own interest? That's the question. You can even see it online. Maybe someone have asked such question. Because many MAGA voters, they vote against their own interest. Still, they're not benefiting from that vote. They are not benefiting from anything. They always suffer. Not the first time, not the second. Always suffer. You know, They always suffer, but there are some reasons behind this. As I was doing my research, as I was trying to understand these people and to understand this question, I find that MAGA people, they fight for low status and respect more than money, more than their life, more than healthcare. They want that respect because many working class voters that feel that modern society, media and elites, politicians, academic, wealth people have been looking down on their way of life for years. They feel a loss of honor, dignity, and declining social status. So, as America becomes more diverse and progressive, the MAGA movement is seen as the way to reclaim this lost respect and social standing. Even if the policies didn't directly help the finances, they are voting for feeling being valued and powerful again, which often more satisfying than a small tax break or economic program. Wow. These people, what they are fighting is regaining their status, regaining their respect, because they have lost it. They don't care about economic policies. They don't care about trade wars. They don't care about anything. For them, what they want is their status to remain. Now, for these MAGA voters, the election is not about maximizing their own income. It's a culture war to protect what they view as traditional American values from perceived threats. They believe their race, religion, especially Christian nationalism and culture, are under attack by forces like immigration, multiculturalism, and woke politics. They prioritize candidates who promise to fight these cultural enemies and maintain the traditional social hierarchy, even if that means supporting policies that are economically unfavorable. In this worldview, stopping a culture change is a bigger win than gaining a financial benefit. So it's like they are trying to protect their culture. That's why they don't want immigrants. That's why, they are very strict on their religion. They don't want to change anything, even if it means losing economic power, losing, having bad economic policies. They don't care. They don't care. Because I remember in the rally period, the guy told them that he's going to deport people on the first day. He's going to deport millions of people. These people, remember, they were using immigrants in their farm. Now I wonder how they were thinking if the guy deports their workers, which happened later, and they cried because they don't have workers. We've seen crops lots in the farm because there's no workers. Immigrants are no longer interested in working in those farms because they are not safe. You see how? They don't care. They don't care. For them, they want to maintain their society. They want to maintain their livelihoods. They don't want any intruders, any people to come and, mix with them or change their culture or trying to do something on their livelihoods or their culture. So that's why even if they found someone who support that, they support him bigly. We always say that there is Project 2025 for them to read, but they haven't even tried to read it. They don't care. They don't want even to understand what's behind there. For them, they want to protect their culture. We always wonder why these MAGA vote against their own interests. We always ask these questions. Why? But these people, they have what they are protecting. So they don't care even any other thing. They don't want people to come into their business. They are managing or they are minding their own businesses. But then, wherever they vote, it causes others problems. So if the farmer votes about tariffs, those farmers who didn't vote, they also face that consequences. They also face that reality. Right now, we've seen that, farmers don't have, or they are not getting bailouts. Right now, Argentina is the one getting bailouts instead of American farmers. So imagine now other farmers who didn't vote for this and they face such reality. They lose that market. There may be soybean farmers. They don't have that market. They lose Chinese market they used to have. But MAGA farmers voted what? To finish that market, to end it. Then they return back to get that market is no longer there. China is no longer interested in it. That's why they are requesting for bailouts. So it means whether MAGA vote against their own interest, but they also don't care about others. But remember, they're not the only one living in the country. They suppose also to care about others. Farmers, even other, we've seen many policies that hurts people, not only the MAGA, but it hurts each and everyone. Their political view are often solidified by the information people consume and the people they talk to. So many MAGA voters in media and in social bubbles like certain social media groups or local community where their views are constantly reinforced and all opposing information is blended as fake news or lie from the enemy elites. This phenomenon called confirmation bias make it nearly impossible to accept facts, arguments, or even about their own economic well-being that contradict their core group identity. The desire for group loyalty and belonging becomes more powerful than objective truth or economic self-interest. So it's like they don't care about what others say. They don't want anyone to oppose them. They don't want people to argue them. Yes. For them, they want to believe whatever they want. So if it's someone who opposes them, they don't want that. So that's their mindset, which takes them to the voting where they always vote against themselves, against their own interest, against everything, against many people. Yes, because right now many people are suffering because of their vote. But, for them, they don't care. They don't care. That's why they always do vote against their own interest. They vote against themselves. Folks, tell me what you think about this MAGA voting against their own interest. It's something that people usually ask. But what I've seen is that for them, they know what they're doing because it's not the first time. Last point I can say is the misinformation, because some voters are not fully informed about how policies actually affect them, the long-term consequences. They may believe messages that emphasize short-term or symbolic gains while downplaying economic trade-off. Politicians and media can frame issue so that voters misunderstand that who benefits. Also, lower education, less detailed exposure to policies debates increases the chance that people vote in ways misaligned with their own material interest. So as I'm concluding is that MAGA supporters, they want to protect, their culture, their status. So they feel like it's under threat, which was why they vote against their own interest, voting to deport people. They don't care about economy. They don't care about, anything. For them, they want to protect their community. They want to protect themselves, so they don't care about any, financial well-being, even if it's a nice policy, they don't care, So that's how they are. Folks, tell me what you think about these MAGA voters. Tell me if you are ever asked this question, why MAGA always vote against their own interest. I am your presenter, Fikazo. Thank you so much. Let's meet in the next one.